in Barron's on 131, okay? We're going to talk about the Forum, okay? The Forum of Trajan. Good, good, good. Okay, so we have got the Forum. If you flip the page, right, you've got the Basilica. You've got the Market and Trajan's Column. They're all kind of a part of the Forum. And I'm going to give you multiple views because for me, I think that I shared the story. I think that this can be a slightly confusing, especially if you're only referencing your Barron's, which I hope you're not. Okay, I hope you're using Smart History, using your videos. All right, but by the end, okay, of this like half an hour, you're gonna have a very clear idea. So if you dropped yourself into the middle of the Forum here, you're gonna be able to find, okay, where the column is, where the basilica is. All right, you're going to know your way around, okay? And again, what is one of the most important innovations of Roman architecture?
Arches.
It's good that I heard like 3 different things because you guys are right. Lots of things were really important. The material. What was the, like? Concrete, right? And so what did concrete give the Romans the flexibility to do?
Build.
Build what?
Art. Anything.
Anything, right? But instead of the post and lintel system, which think about it can be very limiting in terms of like how high you can go, okay, because of the weight, right? If you're using marble, that can be very costly. And it can't really sustain a tremendous amount of weight. But now you've got concrete, and you're thinking about weight distribution. So you can build arches, you can build vaults, you can build groin vaults, right? So the innovation of concrete can't be understated, right? Okay, so the Forum itself. All right. Oh, come on.
So this isn't around anymore?
No. I mean, parts of it are. Okay? So we're not going to do this because I think we're a little bit behind here, but essentially a forum. What do you think a forum is? What do you think that was? Talk to the person next to you. What's a forum?
I don't know who the equivalent of it. So it's MySpace.
It's MySpace. Wait, a place where people socialize. Like this.
I like how MySpace is way beyond our time now. We're like, oh, it's MySpace.
We chose MySpace of all the social media sites.
Trajan gets his forum. That sounds like a book, like a children's book. Like, Trajan gets his forum.
Chapter 1. Trajan thinks of getting a forum. Chapter 2. Trajan starts working to get a forum. Chapter 3. Trajan gets his forum.
Okay.
Wait,
all right, so
that's
what is a
Trajan.
forum? What is a forum? Yes.
It's kind of like the equivalent of the Grecian Agora, where basically people will come together and meet and socialize. And
Good. Okay. So
It's MySpace.
yes. All right. So
sorry.
it's not like kind of one thing, right? It's a collection of spaces and structures together. Okay? So the forum includes, okay, the basilica, which is here, and again, we're going to take multiple looks at this. So if you see this as a drawing, as a plan, you're going to be able to recognize it. If you're looking at it from the south, you're looking at it from the west, okay? So we've got 2 libraries here, okay? We've got the column. We have the basilica here, okay? And this was a statue kind of in the middle. So the whole thing and the market is this U, okay? And think of a the market as like a mall. It was like a mini mall, essentially. So the whole thing together, the collection of all of these things together, was the forum. Does that make sense? Okay? All right. So we're going to get a little bit more information here about a forum and what it looks like today.
That's awesome. Wait, where is that? Is that in Rome?
Well, excellent question. Okay, that thing's gonna happen, you know.
Oh, yeah.
More specifically,
Yep, that's the
over
one.
the Imperial Forum.
Yeah.
A forum.
Okay, ready? We're talking
It's
about the
looking
forum.
at over Rome, and more specifically, over the Imperial Forum.
A forum is something that you can find in any Roman city. It's a civic space.
It was an administrative center, it was a commercial center, and it was a political and social center.
So there was a long tradition of forums going back to the period of the ancient Roman Republic, and that's what we see in the space called the Roman Forum today.
And then Julius Caesar starts a new tradition. He builds his own forum.
The main area of the forum got too busy, and Caesar wanted to showcase his own political power. And so beginning with Caesar, we get a series of forums built by various emperors.
There were quite a number. There was the Forum of Augustus, there was the Forum of Domitian, which became the Forum of Nerva.
Including the one we're looking over now, which is the Forum of Trajan.
But
Okay, well,
Trajan had a problem.
okay. All right, so I just
Trajan
Too many holes.
All right, so this is a forum here, right? This is a forum. The one that you have to know, okay, the forum of Trajan is this. Okay, is the yellow one.
Oh, wow.
Right? The yellow one. And again, civic space, political space, social space. All right? You guys have a good, strong understanding of what a forum is and where we can find our collection that we need to know. Okay? All right? Yes.
Why is this so much bigger than the other ones?
Right?
Good question.
It's just power.
It is all about power, man. It is all about power, right? It is all about I was better, smarter, more powerful, more successful, conquered more, right? It is, with Rome, it's all about like putting themselves out there, right? In statues, in columns, in buildings, in arenas.
It's like America.
It's like everywhere, honestly.
Who is the equivalent of that right now?
Trump.
Kind of, right?
I mean, with this Trump Tower.
Trump
I mean,
Tower, he loves to put his name on everything, right? I'm waiting for him to put a big,
That's
fat
where to
orange
make money
statue
with
of
this
himself in the middle of the,
What is he looking
That's
at?
White House lawn.
The real estate was already filled with the fora of the previous emperors, and so he turned to his architect, his engineer, Apollodorus of Damascus, and
Got it? Apollodorus of Damascus. Okay? So again, Roman art is about patronage. Hiring artists, hiring architects, hiring engineers. You have to know that name. Okay? Who is it?
Apollodorus of Damascus.
Apollodorus of Damascus. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Apollodorus of Damascus.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's part of the full identification of this work.
Apollodorus was tasked with removing the hill that was in the way, or at least a good.
Okay. Did you get that?
He just has to
So
remove
there was
it.
a hill there. There was an actual hill. Okay? What does that say about the Romans?
They're willing to do anything to get their power,
They are in charge of nature,
basically.
right? Like nature is going to bend to the will of what their ideas are. So, he said to his engineer, architect, remove the hill.
So does that make the form? Does that make the form an earthwork?
Ooh. No, but that's a great connection that you just made there, because they were not, okay. No,
They didn't
because
even make
why?
the cell.
All right, so great question. The question here is, does then
Oh,
that make
I think I know why.
the forum an earthwork? Why not?
Because the earth itself isn't a part of the world.
Yes, yes. Earthwork, like, is where the actual environment becomes part of the meaning.
Yeah,
part
exactly.
Of the significance. They're saying,
Kind of like
no,
to be an unmentioned.
eliminate the hill, eliminate the pond, right? Like, wait,
That's a new self-building.
Good portion of it in order to build the forum. Unfortunately, what we see now are the foundations and the ruins and the walls of medieval houses that were built on that earlier classical structure.
Perhaps archaeologists in the future will one day decide to dig deeper and to discover what remains of the Forum of Trajan. But we can see an area that was excavated that was Trajan's, and that's the area of Basilica of Ulpia.
Trajan's Forum is almost the size of all of the imperial fora put together.
It was incredibly extravagant. There was an enormous ceremonial entranceway that led into the space of the forum.
We think that at the top was a sculpture of a chariot pulled by 6 horses with the Emperor Trajan followed by the goddess of victory.
And then once you entered the space of the forum, in the center was an equestrian sculpture, a sculpture showing Trajan on a horse. To get an idea of what that looked like, we can think of the equestrian sculpture of Marcus Aurelius that survived.
And this enormous space would be flanked by huge lobed areas which were called exedrae. But as we looked forward, we would look at one flank of the largest basilica in Rome, the Basilica of Ulpia.
Imagine a public space filled with niches with sculpture in them, relief carvings, freestanding sculpture commemorating the great emperors and politicians and military leaders of ancient Rome.
There were beautiful colored marbles in the paving.
I just want you to get a sense of space here because it's really
Just
I think it
basilica.
can be kind of confusing to like go back and forth between the plans, like the drawings, and what it looks like today. What it looks like today, it's really hard to kind of distinguish where things were, okay? Because it's such a hot mess, right? Okay, so again, entranceway here, right? Coming through, okay, we're looking at the Basilica Ulpia, right? And here is what? What's this hot spot?
The column?
Trajan Column. Basically, this is the only thing that is like standing in its entirety, okay? So most of what you see, now look at this again, okay?
In Rome, the Basilica of Ulpia.
Imagine a public space filled with niches with sculpture in them, relief carvings, freestanding sculpture commemorating the great emperors and politicians and military leaders.
Okay, so if we pause here, can you figure out where this stuff is, what this stuff is? What's what? I'm gonna get somebody to look at it. No, never mind, I'm not time. Okay, what are we looking at here?
The Basilica of
Nothing
Ulpia.
like, right, the recreated drawing, right? So we've got, what's here?
What was our column?
Yes, what was it?
The basilica?
The Basilica of Ulpia, right here, okay? All right? And then you can see behind it,
Trajan's column.
okay? You got a sense of space here of what you're looking at? All right? Kind of?
Mhm.
Thumbs up if you see it.
That's really zoomed out, so it's gonna see small.
Yeah, it is massive.
Leaders of ancient Rome.
There were beautiful colored marbles in the paving stones as well as in the structures themselves, and that's beautifully exemplified by the Basilica of Ulpia. Now it's called the Basilica.
Okay, now, all right? Basilica, Trajan Column, and then the markets. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys see? You getting a sense of the space?
Oh.
All right. Okay?
It's kind
I
of
just
weird.
want you to see it from multiple perspectives, from different drawings, because they could drop one on you that's not here, but you would be able to figure it out. Actually, let me just ask you this question. What is the thing that you know kind of to be true in this image, so that you could kind of figure out where other things are?
The column.
Trajan's Column.
Trajan's Column, right? If you see Trajan's Column, then that's good. That should scream to you what?
Basilica of Ulpia.
Yes, and it's the forum, right? It's a picture of the forum, and you can kind of orient yourself and figure out what the other things are around it. Okay? I'm gonna make you guys jealous. I listened to an opera. Right in here.
Wow, okay.
I didn't like
That's
or the opera, but right?
understanding.
Yeah, so, I can't show you this picture, 'cause it's not in this picture.
Like under the bridge?
No,
Under that bridge.
no, it was like where the
Were the
forum
roads
is.
built after?
Oh,
And it was,
really?
oh my goodness, I just lost
Go
the
over because that's Trajan's family name.
When we look out, we can at least see part of the enormous basilica. There would have been columns on all sides.
And they would have extended beyond the area that has been excavated.
And then beyond that, you went through yet another entranceway. There were two libraries on either side, one for Greek literature, one for Roman literature, and in the middle was the Column of Trajan. The Column of Trajan looks really lonely today, but there were buildings surrounding it.
In fact, the Greek and Latin library were designed with porches so that you could get a great view of the relief carving on the Column of Trajan. The Column of Trajan is in extraordinarily good condition considering that the rest of this area has been destroyed.
Trajan expanded the Roman Empire to its largest borders. He was a great military general.
Okay, can we just take this in? Look at this.
Whoa, that's like, oh my
Look at
gosh.
this map.
That's a ton of Europe.
Isn't this outrageous?
That's like the majority.
Now you know why the Italians are so arrogant?
I mean,
Do we have any Italians?
I mean, I would say that the
Imagine
Mongols.
doing this.
I mean, but-
Right?
But shouldn't the Mongols
You know?
be like also?
Yeah, right?
So if anyone has more beef on anybody, or more to say, more.
Yeah. Or the British. Or the British. The Mongols are the British.
Okay.
Those
Look
guys-
at this empire. This is outrageous, right?
It's,
I mean,
it takes up most of the continent.
look at this. It's like, it's
It really
incredible.
goes into 3 continents. Like.
It looks like it's taking up all the spots in between the continents.
Yeah, it's like it's just outrageous. It really is.
Like it got the fracture of the entire world.
When you looked at the Column of Trajan, the point was to see the story of Trajan's great military exploits, specifically the 2 campaigns which lasted over several years where he defeated the Dacians. Trajan was obviously proud of his military endeavors and his expansion of the empire.
Throughout his imperial forum, Trajan had sculptures of captured Dacians, showing the Dacians as quite noble, as formidable adversaries.
But it was easy to recognize the Dacians because they looked very different from the Romans. They wore fringed shawls, they had a beard and long hair, and so anyone looking at the sculpture
All right, I'm just gonna pause here. I love this. I think this is so fabulous. I think this is like the equivalent of like when you see the New Yorker and you see somebody kind of satirized in some way, right? Like in a way they're kind of mocking them, but they're still making them look like they're like formidable. Does that make sense, right?
You make them look like they're people, but they still distinguish on their different.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's what Elijah was doing with you guys too, when you were kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
thinking about those 2 different ways of depicting, you know, your opponent, right? Still strong, but definitely different, right? Yeah.
Doesn't making your enemy stronger make you stronger?
Yes, right? Like I can, you know, beat up a tiny little something or other, right? But if I'm, you know, kicking the crap out of somebody that's like bigger than me, then that makes me stronger, right?
He's from Game of Thrones. Can we get those?
Hey, it's being filmed
I've
right
never
now.
had this. Okay.
Whatever you say.
All right.
Larry.
Whatever you say.
sculptures could easily tell these were the defeated foes. And there was a sense of the correctness of what the Romans had done. Everywhere one looked, you saw sculptures of the Romans conquering their enemies.
And his success over the Dacians funded this monumental building